you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
All righty. Good morning and welcome to the May the 17th, 2022 edition of the Counter Racist Code Show, also known as the CRCS. We thank you automatically for being with us. We don't take that for granted. We thank you for being with us to hear the remarks that Mr. Fuller is going to make or suggestions concerning, listen very carefully, concerning the system of white supremacy, which is racism. It's very important that you understand the wording of that. The system of white supremacy, racism. Make sure you understand that. To get in contact with the show, the number is 516-453-9921. When you get that number, you'll get the call screener. Just give your first name. That's all you have to do. And then make sure you press the number 1 button and then give them your name. I would ask that you would be brief in your comment. You don't even have to explain it. Just ask your question so that Mr. Fuller can give you the suggestions to what you may want to counter whatever you are experiencing. So please be brief on that. You can Gmail me if you would like, although there are only going to be a selected few that could be read today, so that is not the best way to do that. But if you elect to Gmail me, just simply do this, the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. You can also join the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com. Then you want to click on where it says programs, and you want to click on that, then you get to Produce Justice Show. And once you click on that, the availability for the chat room comes up, and you can click on that, and you are in the chat. And they have some very good conversations that go on in there. And occasionally I will read some of the chat that goes on. But I would ask, ma'am, or ask, sir, please do not necessarily use the chat room to ask your question, because I may not be able to get to that. Call the number, particularly if you are a new caller. We set up something special for new callers so that you can have the availability to get in. But I'm asking, ma'am, please, sir, please, ma'am, do not use the chat room for me to ask your question that you could ask by just giving the call to that number. Okay, with that in mind, I think those are what we're going to do for today. So let me start off by introducing to some and presenting to others Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
Mr. Fuller, how are you this morning?
I'm still learning.
Okay. This is a segment that I've given much thought to, and it's simply going to be entitled The Thoughts and Expressions of Mr. Neely Fuller to start off the program. Mr. Fuller, what are your thoughts or expressions that you would like to commence today's May the 17th, 2022 program on?
Well, somebody mentioned to me to keep up with the news, and what has happened in the news has been the shootings in Buffalo, New York.
So I'll just simply address that like I have been addressing all events. For the most part, it's in the Counter-Racist Code book. And then there are several ways I choose to address all events of this type. And that is, these things are to be expected. That's the most simple and direct way of expressing it and summing it up. It really doesn't call for a lot of discussion of any kind. Not discussion. You just describe events as they happen because they are going to happen. And they're going to happen based on our status, our meaning, the victims of white supremacy. We're prisoners of war. We can expect to be gunned down in the prison yard at any time, any place. We're not citizens of anything. We're prisoners of war. Prisoners of war. Prisoners of war. We're in captivity by the system of white supremacy, not the United States government or any other government other than the system of white supremacy. That's all we've ever known. We, meaning people of color, ever since the beginning of white supremacy, whenever that was. So you can expect prison guards in a prison where there are very lax rules about what you do to the prisoners. You can expect to be gunned down in the prison yard at any time by any guard that's in the prison yard and decides to do so. This has got to be expected. This is business as usual. These are not some alien-type events. And you can expect the prisoners to gun down each other if they're using a gun to do the killings. You can expect killings in a prison that's loosely managed as far as the prisoners having any kind of protection, either from each other or from the prison guards. And it should be looked at that way worldwide. It's almost ho-hum. Now, to the people who are being gunned down and the people who are putting the candles out and preparing for the burials and all like that, I can understand the emotional attachments, but I know for one, I have steeled myself against this many, many decades ago. So that I just say it's all a part of the war. Dying is a part of the war. And in a prisoner of war camp where the prison rules are, well, the prisoners, any one of them, any dozens of them, or any thousands of them, all expendable. They're just in the way anyway, meaning the black people of the planet. They're just taking up space. That's the historical position of the people who run the system of white supremacy. Racism, we call it. That goes with the territory. So nobody should be alarmed at anything that happens that shouldn't happen. So now another statement I usually make and have been for decades when things like this happen, it comes right out of the code book, is just 4 things you can say, and that is, many people have been harmed who should not have been harmed. And that will apply to the Buffalo event. That's number 1. Many people have been harmed who should not have been harmed. Number 2, many people are to blame. Number 3, the people who are most to blame are hiding in plain sight. That's the white supremacists who are pretending that they care, that Black Lives Matter, and they'll march with black people, but they don't put a stop to what's causing it. And it also applies to the white people here on planet Earth who are all in favor of what happened, or say that they're in favor outright. The other white people who are white supremacists, just talking about the white supremacists now, nobody else, the refined white supremacists are the ones who come out and help mourn with you. But they're not going to do anything to inconvenience themselves to change it, except to say that it ought to be changed. That's number 3. Those who are most to blame are hiding in plain sight. That's mostly the refined racists, the ones who shake your hand and come out and march with you and all like that, and then go back to business as usual. And you say, well, what's going to happen as a result of it? Well, we'll help you to mourn. We'll help you to look into it. We will see to it that the proper procedures are taken, proper action is taken. To try to minimize this as much as we possibly can and get to the root causes of it as best we can, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And number 4 is the bottom line. The people who are most to blame are all white supremacists, whether it's black people killing each other or white people killing black people, or black people killing white people. The people who are most to blame in the system of white supremacy are the white supremacists. So the code position, the recipe for curing all of this, you're not going to without replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. Not something that has been said, replace white supremacy with black supremacy. That'd just be the same old cycle with another name. Just a whole lot of killing, a whole lot of dead bodies being stacked up, and everybody mourning, and then dead bodies the next day, and then everybody mourning that, and then dead bodies the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and on into infinity. It's like mockery. It's like a joke. But anybody at this point to be acting like, really sincerely, like a lot of people are sincere. I'm shocked. I didn't think this could happen here. What are you talking about? This is the system of white supremacy. It's designed for people to be miserable, to people to be dead. We're just going about doing what they call normal prison business. It goes with the territory. And the final word on this is prepare for it to happen again and again and again and again. And try to stay out of the line of fire as best you can, and keep the people that you care about out of the line of fire as best you can, which most likely is going to be 0. Just by luck, you survive. You're prisoners of war. Ugly things are supposed to happen. Nothing that's pleasant is supposed to happen to you if you're black. That's what this entire program is all about. Don't expect anything to happen that's pleasant. Take your pleasures as best you can as you go along, but it's like prisoners of war just taking a break, or slaves taking a break, before they get another whipping or before they get killed. You have to look at it like that. We are in a war, W-A-R. We're talking about the Ukraine. Black people are always in the Ukraine. Always. Always. Not a minute when you're not. Whether it's Rwanda, or whether it's Trayvon Martin, or whether it's Buffalo or Pittsburgh. Always. This is a battlefield and a prison. The entire world. So all this being shocked, we need to be educated and not being in that frame of mind at all. And the people who are most to blame are the white supremacists, whomever they are, wherever they are, every last one of them. That's all I have to say on that at this moment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fuller. You're listening to the CRCS, the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. We're going to try to have this thoughts and expressions of Neely Fuller on every program, whatever he is thinking about or his thoughts on it. And then we'll take your calls and whatever we have to do to keep the program going. I will say this, Mr. Fuller on this program today, 5/17/2022, will give or present the suggested solution to all problems. Many will not hear it, many will not believe it, and many do not understand how this works. If and when you could or would sum it up in one word, Mr. Fuller always says it, and he's been saying it, the word is justice. Justice. Those that know see this as it is, as prophetic, and lines up exactly with the requirements of the creative force of the universe. Many don't believe that, but it does. Stephen in Texas, you're the first caller. Go ahead, please, sir.
Yes, sir. I'll be as brief as I can and quick to the point. But my whole reasoning for why I've been coming on this show the previous times is because of what we just seen in Buffalo, New York. There's things in place, not only just a code, but something to be active with the code to protect and survive in this system of white supremacy. And that's why, without question, in every situation that we as Black Americans are faced with, is the solution and mechanisms in place to protect you, and I called it the CPIIA, Citizens and Police Immediate Interactive Assistance, because we had one individual who saw this terrorist, and we had a person called 911 who was hung up on. So the emergency, if there's an emergency problem, there's a communication problem, and the assistance problem. So what CPIIA comes in to be proactive against every threat and communication that is needed to protect and give life to those who need life. Thank you very much.
All right, Stephen. All righty. Mr. Fuller, you said on this program, I have said on many programs, that all problems are solved through the process. Notice you said the process of questions and answers. You also said that concerning justice, and you have given a compensatory justice for those who, your definition of that, for those who have not heard that. What is your compensatory definition of justice, and why hasn't it existed on this planet?
Well, since the beginning of white supremacy, in answer to the second question, it's because the white supremacists are opposed to justice. Justice, in answer to the first question, what is it? It means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. No person, under what circumstances? No person anywhere is mistreated. You got to guarantee that. That's number one. Number two, of the two parts of the definition, you got to guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And that applies to any and every area of activity, the most constructive help in these areas of activity. What are the areas? Economics, which is the use of time and energy, basically. Education, you need help in education, you're supposed to get it. I mean, that shouldn't be a debate about how much education you can get and what it's going to cost and all like that. Hey, the person needs to be educated. See to it that the person is educated in order to be constructive in everything that they do. Economics, education, entertainment, constructive entertainment. Make everything in your entertainment constructive. When people come out on the stage doing whatever they do, when the curtain goes down, you say, now that was entertainment. Now, what was the constructive result? What am I taking away from this theater that I can use to accomplish something that's of constructive value? Otherwise, why was I in that warm in that seat? Entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war.
All righty. Got them all in. All righty. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Let's see here. This is a Gmail that I said that I would read. This comes from Rasamin. Says this: Greetings, Mr. Bobby. I want to make it known to Mr. Fuller that I received a duplicate order from ProduceJustice.com containing 2 books, the original version plus the Word Guide that I had previously received. So an error was made, and I have books I did not pay for. I do not want to receive a benefit because of an error or miscommunication. Mr. Fuller, what is the codified action/response for a fellow victim of white supremacy to have in a situation such as this so we can produce the most constructive result?
The person has an extra book that they didn't pay for?
That's what he said. Maybe 2, but he said containing 2 books, and I had received previously, so an error was made, and I have books that I did not pay for, so evidently books meaning 2. I do not want to receive a benefit because of an error or miscommunication. Mr. Fuller, what is the codified action/response for a fellow victim of white supremacy to have in a situation such as this so we can produce the most constructive result? What does he need to do? Because he has 2 books that he's already had. There was an error made somewhere. He wants to resolve it. How does he do this? What does he have to do?
The person has already taken that action.
It's already done? Oh, okay.
No, the person took the action of notifying us, notifying me, that they received 2 books in error. Okay? So the person has done what they should do according to the code. Now, I will make the decision about that. I say keep the book and pass it on to someone else. If they're interested in using it, or do whatever you see fit that will have the most constructive result. Do not send it back, and do not pay for it. It was an error made on my part, or somebody else's part, that was acting in my behalf. So that's the decision that I will make as a compensatory move. So just keep the book and pass it on to someone who can use it, who might use it to produce constructive results. So that's resolved as of right now.
Okay. All righty. So you heard that and what to do with that. And as a matter of fact, we'll go to Corey. Corey, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Greetings, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. VGQ, I appreciate the advice. I'm the person that received the books in here. So I appreciate the answer to my question. My VGQ is that during this Buffalo killing that was first talked about, on the same weekend in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 16 non-white people were shot. Three died. So my VGQ is that it's sadly not surprising, and we need to stop killing each other so we can start producing justice. We have to stop doing what we're doing to each other. And thank you very much. And that's all for today.
You're welcome, Corey. Thank you. All right, let's take a break here. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. here on Blog Talk Radio. Now, to get in contact with this program, just simply dial 516-453-9921. And be sure, if you want to make a comment or a question, all you need to do is give your name to the call screener. Please, ma'am, please, sir, be brief so that Mr. Fuller can fully answer your question. You can also contact the show or me by using my Gmail. That is at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. Chances are it will not be read on today's program, but you can do that, and at a future date your message will be read and have Mr. Fuller address that, but I can't tell you when for sure. You can also get in the chat room as it's filling up in there right now. And all you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on the programs menu, and then you can go to the Produce Justice Show, click on that, and there's a space, a little box that you can click on that, and you're in the chat room, and you can have a chat with the wonderful people that are in the chat room. I say that affectionately because they are no joke. So if you're going to use this to play, it's just not the forum to do that. They will intelligently tell you what to do without using bad words or bad language or anything. I appreciate the people that are in the chat room, and they help me out also. So those that want to play, or what do you call them, trolls or whatever? Oh, they got you. All right, yeah. Okay. Today's show, again, Mr. Fuller has already given you the answer to every problem that you could have, even the ones that are on the line right now. He's already told you, or suggested the answer to that. It's up to you to believe it. I know I had a revelation earlier this week about that, and it just really impressed me. It lines up perfectly with the universe, perfectly, and with the Creator. Marcus, Long Beach, gotcha.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you. Other than this program and programs like this, why does a discussion on white supremacy only get listened to or talked about when a suspected white supremacist commits a heinous crime?
Well, the news is, I think it's like what Muhammad Ali said about something else, if I recall correctly. what we call news, it registers with people somewhat like yesterday's newspaper at the bottom of somebody's bird cage. In other words, once a day goes by, well, it's like it didn't happen, whatever it is. Because news is really not news anymore, or if it ever was, I don't know. But it doesn't have much effect on what people go about doing. People are creatures of habit. That's the only explanation I have for it. And the habit in the system of white supremacy is that we've become accustomed to glorifying death. The system of white supremacy is the greatest glorifier of death of any system ever conceived in the minds of the people on the planet. Now, what I mean by glorifying, I mean in all of the entertainment. I keep talking about that. That's the root. If you really get beyond the system of white supremacy itself, as long as people are glorifying people who carry swords, people who carry guns, people who worship guns. I was looking at a program last night on television, just briefly, and it showed a person up to their waist in water, and they had a dog with them, and they were out in something that looked like a swamp or something, and they had a shotgun, and they were shooting birds. And the person shot the bird, and the dog went into the high grass with water, sort of swamp-like. And it took the dog quite a while to find the bird among the grass where it had fallen into the water. And finally the dog found the bird, brought it to it. It was a duck, I believe. And the person said, "Oh, boy, well, my time wasn't wasted. You know, I was out here. I knew I'd hit him, and I got him. And now the sun is going down, and, hey, it's kind of cold, and I'm getting wet out here and in this water, even though he had on waterproof equipment, clothing. But he was getting out of the cold and the damp and heading back to the house with his duck. And I'm looking at that. Now, that's called a sport, duck hunting. Lots of money and lots of effort and lots of time is being spent on hunting ducks. Well, with the modern equipment that you have, ducks are pretty easy to kill. In fact, you can round up ducks. Some people eat a lot of duck in some societies, just like in many societies, you eat a lot of chicken. But among some people, you eat duck. But then I've seen people go fishing and throw the fish back when they catch it. Now, what's that all about? It's about making death or practicing killing or hunting or making something miserable that's ordinarily not miserable or trying not to be miserable like people. So with that type of mentality, now the person that I was talking about who was doing the duck hunting looked like he was, frankly speaking, way overweight. You need to be backing up from eating duck or anything else. He needs to be on a diet. His health is in danger from overeating, presumably. Maybe some other problem. But he's out there hunting duck, and he'll probably eat the duck. and but you can buy duck, I guess, in the store. But the main thing is he enjoyed the killing and teaching the dog to enjoy killing. That's the point that I'm making. So we're in a world that's taught to glorify killing. And the people who believe in white supremacy do tons of it. Actual killing and glorifying anybody who does a lot of killing. They love the idea of the body count. Well, how many people were killed in that last shooting at the school? Well, I think it was 13, but it might have been as many as 20. They haven't finished yet. I mean, they've cordoned off the place. And they think that whoever went in there and did the shooting may have gone up on another floor. So we'll keep you posted. And here on the air, in the law enforcement, we'll try to find out if there are other people up on that other floor. But I think the count is 13 now, or the count is 45 now, and we think that there might be as many as 20 others that are unaccounted for that might have been killed, because the killer is still loose on the upper floors of that building. We'll keep you posted over and over and over again. Bombs dropped, robberies, carjackings. How many? How many people were killed in that last carjacking? Well, nobody was killed. Well, that's almost like a disappointment. Wasn't nobody killed? Oh, well, hey, return the channel. See if anybody was killed in that other carjacking. I think it was about 30 today. So let's see if anybody got killed. I mean, the cars were jacked. That's skrilling. Okay. They got any footage of it? I mean, I'll look at that. Video games. That's what all of our modern entertainment is. Video games of killings, more than anything. And the books that sell are still the mostly neck and neck with other books. Murder mysteries, at least neck and neck with all the other books. Another novel. Some of the highest paid authors in the world are people who write about killing, murder. I got another one coming out, and another one, and another one. That last one was really a whopper. They're going to make about 6 movies off of it. All about killing. Death worship. That's what the system of white supremacy is. So when we hear a 16-year-old out there joining a gang, he's carrying 2 guns on him now that he managed to get. Now that's the center of his entire existence now. He worships those guns. They had me buying guns right out of my teens. I was looking forward to buying guns. I used to buy guns myself out of Stoker's catalog. Why? I'm looking at Dick Tracy killing people. Dick Tracy's a cartoon character at that time, very popular back in the 1930s and 40s. And other people, Prince Valiant, I think that's still around in the comic books. Killing. Turn to the Sears and Roebuck catalog and see the toy pistols. That's the first thing I'd look at. Cars, trains, and if there's no toy pistols in there, that catalog is useless. That's how I was raised. Worshipping death makers. So who should be surprised at the way we act here on this planet called Earth, this beautiful planet that is given to us? I was looking at some ducks the other day. Look at their feathers. They're finely crafted. Whatever created those ducks. If you just look at a duck, or a pigeon for that matter, a very common bird that's very annoying to most people, a pigeon. But look at their feathers. Somebody put a whole lot of artistic craftsmanship, you might say, into the feathers on a pigeon. If anybody is listening to a transistor-type radio now sitting in the park, and they see some pigeons, look at those feathers. Look at those feathers on that pigeon, a very common bird. Some people feed them, other people chase them off. But look at the feathers. Fine craftsmanship going into that. Now, that's in all of nature, what we call nature. The leaves on trees and all of it, flowers. But the white supremacists, they believe in killing. Killing pigeons. I mean, just killing. Kill whatever's out there. Anything that moves, kill it. And it's fun. And then wonder why people grow up looking for each other to kill. Body counts. Okay, if anybody has any questions, we'll continue on.
We'll continue. Okay. Many don't believe that you right now, all the listeners, Yahweh has blessed you with the power to hear and listen to this program, but you have to learn how to hear. But do you know right now, in your heart, that is in your mind, that you have the power to dismantle the system of white supremacy and replace it with justice right now? Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for your call. Let me go here to Adam, way on the left coast, up in Canada, I believe it is, British Columbia.
Yes.
Adam, you're on.
Yes. Okay. Good morning. I just want to get Mr. Fuller's thoughts on a YouTube video that I had just seen by an old white lady by the name of Sharon Marie Chester. And in this video, she was claiming that all white people are that they're all racist, and that it's in their upbringing that they're conditioned to be racist. And I just want to know what Mr. Fuller thinks about that.
Well, I'll just go to what the code says. That's why we need a code. And I say that this is the best thing to say in response to are all white people racist? And the logical answer, which codification is supposed to be based on logic, the answer is no. But all of the white people who are able to be racist, that's why the answer is no. Not all white people are able to be racist. Newborn white babies are not able to be racist because they don't know colors. You have to know colors. You have to know one color from another. So a baby who is born, who is white, is a newborn white baby. And it's logical to assume that baby, coming right out of the womb, does not know one color from another. The baby doesn't even know that it's here. The baby is crying out. But I don't think any baby that's ever born anywhere remembers when they gave their first cry and what they were crying about. Somebody had to tell them, or they had to see that later on. if somebody videotaped the birth. And so the other is even a person who was a staunch racist, if they stay here long enough, keep getting up in the morning and going to bed at night, their mind will deteriorate. So when your mind deteriorates, which it certainly will, just by being here a number of years, it happens to everybody, your mind will deteriorate with your body. So if your mind deteriorates, if you stay here long enough for your mind to deteriorate just from age, you will get to the place where you won't know your left foot from the right, or even that you have a foot, or that you have an arm, or that you have a name, or you won't be able to tell one color from another. So that's babies and senile people who you cannot suspect, logically speaking, of being racist. Now, what about the other white people who are able to know, able, this is the key word, able to be racist, meaning they know one color from another? The code says they should be suspected of being racist until proven otherwise. You don't have any other options. And it's logical to suspect any white person anywhere on the planet to be a racist if that white person is able to tell one color from another. That's what the code says. That's a duty if you're a non-white person on this planet. You just take for granted that the average white person walking around, the average white person is not a baby. The average white person is not senile. So the average white person, you should suspect that person of being a racist, even if that person thinks and will say, "What? Me? I'm not a racist. I don't." A common expression. I don't have a racist bone in my body. Well, I don't know what a racist bone looks like, but I will say that according to the code, it's logical that a victim of racism has a duty to suspect every white person who is able to be a racist to be one until proven different. Proven by whom? To the victim. A white person may prove it to everybody in the world, but if that white person doesn't prove it to you, they still got some proving to do, according to the code.
Mm-hmm. All righty.
And that helps to produce justice. That's right in line with producing justice. I don't think anybody has a master list of who is and who is not a racist. So you can suspect in a racist world any person who is able to be one who is white, since we talked about white supremacy, that's the only form of racism, to be a racist. That's a duty.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Thank you, Adam, British Columbia. All righty. Mr. Fuller, this comes from No Name, says this. Mr. Fuller, with the rampant black-on-black violence, do you, Mr. Fuller, think it would be more beneficial for black people to take responsibility for our own senseless acts of violence instead of blaming the white man? Do you think black Americans will ever get our reparations? Well, Mr. Fuller?
Okay, I'll answer the first question.
Okay.
By responsibility, see, words are very important, like the word America. That was thrown in there.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do. America has nothing to do with racism. I keep saying that. Think about it, folks. What is America and what is racism? What is America And what is racism? Get those definitions down, because they have nothing to do with one another based on logic, not based on what Neely Fuller says. Stop mixing that up if you want to make sense. White supremacy has nothing to do with America. America has nothing to do with white supremacy, never has and never will. It's two different things altogether. We'll get that straight, I hope. Stop putting in any kind of conversation Americanism with racism. They're nowhere close. Nowhere in the same neighborhood. If you go by definition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
I just want to throw that out there.
Okay,
now,
done.
Black people killing each other. Stop it. That's one of the 10 stops in the code book. Just stop it. I mean, those who are doing it and those who do it, everybody, now this code says this, anybody, anywhere on the planet who kills anybody for any reason, even in self-defense, anybody who kills anybody, everybody on the planet should know two things: who did it and why. Number one, who did it? Number two, why? Everybody on the planet should know that instantly. That takes care of all that talk about snitching and all like that. No. When you kill somebody, you stand by your work. Don't run and hide and try to make it look like somebody else did it. No. That's the philosophy, should be, among black people. Grandmothers who are hiding their grandchildren and all, no. Don't. Like one lady said, she raised her offspring, said, you get in trouble with the law enforcement people and you did it, you actually did it, don't come back here. And she said she raised them and they all turned out fine. She raised them that way. She said, now if you didn't do it, I'm going to be there like lightning, all right? Even though I'm old and slow. But I'm going to move. If you didn't do it, you're in trouble with the law, with the police. She said, but if you did it, this address is unknown to you. Don't you ever show up here. She said she hammered that in her grandchildren. And they acted accordingly. Don't stop here. You know, a lot of particularly black males, we got this thing of, get in touch with my grandmother. Yeah. And a lot of grandmothers are the person to get in touch with. And they did a whole lot of things that the only person they should be in touch with is somebody who's going to lock them up. All right? But this crutch, this grandmother crutch, that's got to stop.
Got to stop.
And one way it can stop is that grandmothers let their grandchildren or mothers let your sons and daughters know. And that will include yourself, by the way, because we've got a lot of young grandmothers out here and young mothers. Yeah. You straighten out your own business. Don't involve nobody else. You're in trouble, and you did it. You broke the white supremacist laws, the prison rules. You have to stand by your work. I'm not calling on anybody to demonstrate for me. If I get in trouble with the white supremacists, that's what the code is for. I rely on the code to sustain me. I don't need go and have somebody demonstrate to get me out of something. No, that's why I say we all need a code. And that should be the grandmother code. for black people. Don't come here. I don't know who you are until you straighten out that mess that you got in. You wouldn't listen to me. You listening to your homies and your buddies. Tell your buddies to march on the precinct station. You out here drive-by shooting and all like that. Don't come here. Don't come here. Don't come here until you straighten the mess out. Then you're welcome. But until this mess gets straightened out, don't you have them questioning me about nothing. I don't know you.
Okay. All righty. We're getting ready to come to the close of the first hour here on the Counter-Racist Code Show. I tried to verify this as much as possible, but Tucson, who I believe is in the concept called the Netherlands, I did try to verify this as to what publication this was allegedly said, but it's been reported that, quote, the news, I don't know what news, does a tiny little section, and this was a quote from whatever paper this was, someone shot some niggers, next item. Now, I don't know what publication did that, even if it was reported in the Netherlands, not to be offensive to those who are in the concept called the Netherlands, but I tried to get verification on that, what paper did that, but I did as best as I could. But then I did find out that that was also, I guess it was an opinion, because he said that lives, those are the lives of non-white people, non-white black people are of less value. I concluded that myself, but the national news in my country did report on it. And then I asked what country is that, then I was told the Netherlands. Then I thanked them for that. So I don't know if that's true or not, but someone also said this, that kind of situation is to be expected. Constructive action items mentioned that. And Still Learning said, this is from the chat to Toussaint, that's classified as usual. End of quote. Okay, well, you heard the first hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. We're coming up on the second hour, and, man, we're going to go to Buffalo when we come back, and then maybe the Black Mermaid. We got 2 Darnells coming up also, all that and more coming up. So thank you for enjoying the first hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. We do honestly appreciate everything that you have to say, whatever your contributions are. We appreciate that in the elimination of this system of white supremacy by dismantling it and producing justice. Thank you, and be sure to stay tuned for the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. coming up in about 5 seconds. Okay, maybe that was 7 seconds. But good morning and welcome to the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. To get in contact with this program, call 516-453-9921. If you have something to say, make it brief. VGQ, brief also. Make sure you give your name to the call screener so I can hopefully give you a proper introduction. If you like to send me a Gmail, you can by going to the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. And I probably will not read it today, but anyway, it will be read at some point in time, and then I will give you, when I read it, the date and time when it is read. Some people like to hear their selves or whatever that is all about. But anyway, we do read that. We try to be constructive about it because we want constructive results, which you will hear all throughout those programs. And also you can do this. You can get into the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on programs and you want to produce just this show, Click on that bad boy, and then the chat room will come up, and you can get in there, get all the way up in there. And, man, I'm telling you, they are really, really good. I failed to mention that. This was my fault because there was so much on my mind, but no excuses. But everything that Mr. Fuller talks about is in his publications that you can get by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And if you are a new caller, please tell the call screener that, and we have a situation set up where we can get you on. So make sure if you're a new screener, maybe we need a new screener too. No, if you're a new caller, do that, and then they'll fix it up so we can get you on so you can ask your question. Don't be scared, okay? Just ask your question and listen to the suggestion that Mr. Fuller will have for you, because we definitely want to eliminate the system of white supremacy, which is racism, by dismantling it and replacing it with justice. Well, that's what the show said, produce justice. Yeah. Okay. Let's go here to Buffalo. A and X. That's what it has here on my screen. You're on. Good morning and welcome. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Good morning. I want to start off by thanking Mr. Fuller about mentioning animal suffering, because I've recently become a vegetarian, and I've also thought about senseless harming of animals, such as catching a fish and the fish has a hook in his mouth or in his body, and then you just throw the fish back in, or shooting a duck for no reason at all. So I recommend that people eat less meat or no meat. But that's just my quick VGQ. But my question is Mr. Fuller, have you heard about the shooter's 180-page manifesto?
I've heard about it. I don't know what's in it.
Okay, so I recommend that that we somehow get that to you, because it's very telling into a racist mind. Like I have it here. I want to just read just a tiny bit of it, please. So on page 6.
Maybe a minute's worth, because we don't have that much time, please, sir.
Okay, I'll be quick. Let's see here. He was asked, "Are you a white supremacist?" He said, "Yes, I would call myself a white supremacist. After all, which race is responsible for the world we live in today? I believe the white race is superior in the brain to all other races. Are you a racist?" Yes, I am racist, because I believe in differences of capabilities between races. And then he was asked about, can't find it now, but he was asked, is he white? And he went into saying that, here it is. Who do you consider white? Those that are ethnically and culturally European. Who do you consider non-white? Those who are not ethnically and culturally European. Okay. So this has a lot of really straight to the point. It's the mindset of a white supremacist straight from them. So I think it's very important that you read this, Mr. Fuller.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Let's see here. I want to get the Black Mermaid in here. Wait a minute, see if I can get her in here. Where's the Black Mermaid at? Wait a minute. Hey, if the Black Mermaid calls back, get her on here, because she was on my screen, but she's not on here now. Okay. Technology. Okay. Anyway, get the Black Mermaid in here. foster her up to the top position. In the meantime and in between time, let's go to Darnell in Ohio. Darnell, let me see if I can get you in here. There we go. Darnell, good morning, and what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I did read the manifesto as well, and as I was going through it, a lot of things stuck out at me, and I would just have to say that a lot of the teachings from Mr. Fuller as well as Dr. Welsing just stuck out like a sore thumb. To use a quote from Mr. Fuller was just slam dunks. And one of the things that jumped out at me is that a white supremacist takes both sides of the argument. So my question to Mr. Fuller is, why do a white supremacist like to take both sides of an argument?
Well, you have two techniques. One is very direct, and the other will take both sides. So that's the refined races. See, you have some races, like the person that went in the Buffalo, who are very direct. In other words, they let you know, I'm a racist. I want to be a racist. I believe in white supremacy. Now, the refined races, which includes huge numbers, the greater number, here in May of 2022, the larger number of the white supremacists on the planet will deny that they are racist. That's the largest number. It's just a small number of white supremacists who say, I'm a racist and I'm proud of being one and I intend to be one. But you have the refined racists who are saying, who, me? I don't have a racist bone in my body. There's nothing racist about me. But they are refined. They are the ones who march with you and cry with you and do all the hugging and kissing and whatnot. Get in bed with you. But they still believe in white supremacy. But they hide it. They hide little bits of it here, little bits of it there, so that you can't detect any of it if you're a victim of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. All right? Now, that's the majority of the white supremacists on the planet here in May of 2022 worldwide. The majority of white supremacists will deny that they are white supremacists. They will deny it. And that's the difference. Mm-hmm. You have the direct, and then you have the refined. You have the direct and then the indirect, you might say. Yes. You can describe it that way. And that's the only difference. One is polished, shake your hand, tell you to check with them next week. I think your job will come through next week. And I'm working on it. We're working steady on it. And I think you're going to be approved. And when you walk out, they shake your hand and pat you on the back and walk you down the hall, all right, and give you some jelly beans on your way out, and come back and wink at the rest of them saying, he thinks he's going to get this job. He ain't going to never get this job. But he doesn't know it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. I got to laugh because I had a premonition of you eating some pancakes and me eating jelly beans. Wow. Okay. Question, Mr. Fuller. Can you explain, this is a question from the chat, can you explain the logic behind the effectiveness of confusing an individual sexually and why it's so much more effective than, for example, educational confusion?
Because sex is very, very powerful. Like all motivations are powerful, some motivations are more powerful than others. A person might have a motivation to just run a little bit of exercise. And the other person standing next to him say, I'm not going to do that. I'll walk to get some exercise, but I ain't doing all that running like you do. I can't keep up with that. And so they're not motivated. Okay? So sex is a natural motivation. And it can go in all kinds of directions. It's a live motor. It's a very extremely powerful motor. Just the motivation to have some type of sexual interaction of some type. People get urges at a certain age, and if it doesn't have a steering wheel with it, it'll just be all over the place. Well, the white supremacists figured out a long time ago, we will capture the direction of what a black person's sexual motivations will be. And we'll steer it in a direction that will serve the system of white supremacy. So what they are doing is very simple. They're steering, broadly speaking, worldwide here in May of 2022. The white supremacists say, oh, yeah, we can handle them in economics. We can handle them in education. Promise them education and then don't give it to them. Mm-hmm. Education that will help them to accomplish anything. And in all areas of activity, we are handling them. But in sex, we got to really handle them, all right, and see to it that in the future, generations. And the best way to do that is to steer black, to put it in simple terms, we're going to steer black females. We're not going to do it directly. We're going to do it indirectly. We got ways of doing things into wanting to be males and put them in positions that males usually have. Because they're kind of halfway there now. And we'll keep them that way and keep pushing them in that position. So that they won't even be interested in males. They'll lose interest. We'll mess up the males so bad that they won't even want to fool with them. They won't even want to have male children no more. They'll just have girls, okay? And we will steer the black male into wanting to be a female, wanting to be like his mother and like his sister and like the girlfriend he used to have. And she got disgusted with him, and of course he wasn't about nothing. And she was making more, quote, progress than he was, all right? And we'll set that up so that she actually will be. She'll be the person bringing in the money, and she'll resent it. And he will be out here street robbing and killing other black males, and then decide, well, maybe I better just give up on ever being a man, all right? And those who give up on being a man, will let them pretend to be females and take an interest in other males. And then we'll give them better jobs and everything like that. And that's working real well right now, everywhere.
Yes, sir.
And we'll grab the smartest ones first. But they won't figure out what we're doing until it's too late. And that way, we will control them in all the other areas of activity. Because when you control a person's sexual activity, it's real easy to steer them in the direction you want them to go in every other activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics. You can control their religion. Once you get control of their sexuality, you can control a person's religion. I mean, even if you're a priest and you have dedicated yourself to Jesus Christ, you will still have sexual motivations, and you're steered in the direction of fondling little boys, catch them early. You wait too late, you won't be able to fondle them. All right? And that's a wonderful place in religion. So get them all in the choir and on the deacon board. That's how you handle these non-white people when they become a little unruly. Take that black male, have him want to be a prissy female, just as prissy as he can be, and take that black female and put her in the army and send her off with her girlfriend, both of them to die in each other's arms in a foxhole somewhere. That's the plan, folks, and it's working beautifully.
Yeah. Wow. All righty. Let's go. We got a new caller. Let's see. Solar Beam from the Rock. Oh, yeah, from the Rock. Solar Beam, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
First, a big country, thank you. Now, the question is, Mr. Fuller, I talk on the KABF quite a bit, and a lot of times I feel guilty when you say back your work and all that. I don't get to say this is from Mr. Neely Fuller, but I feel like a disciple teaching our people what you are saying. And can we be forgiven when sometimes that we don't mention this is from Malcolm X or this is from Neely Fuller or Brother Farrakhan, but those of us that get to talk on 100,000 watts or more, knowing that we feel like we love our people and we're trying to teach, can we be forgiven for not mentioning that this quote or this saying, especially when people say every time you say this man's name or like you don't have a brain of your own, but can we be forgiven when we don't mention Neely Fuller said this or that?
Well, the reason I give you the codified reason for giving your source.
Yes, sir, I understand.
If I make a quote from Jesus of Nazareth, I'll say this comes from the Bible. I mean, this quote was made in Revelations or whatever it was. If I'm going to quote a news person or the President Biden, if he says something, people might get confused if I make it look like anybody said it. I mean, particularly Donald Trump, and I'm quoting Mr. Biden, and somebody says, well, I think that came from Donald Trump. People got to guess. No. You always tell your source of anything. That's what you do when you testify under oath. The detective on a case wants to know, well, where's the source of your information? You've given us all this information about some bodies being buried in a barn. Now, where did you get this information? So that we can track that down. It may not be true at all. It may not be any bodies. We out there with digging in the ground and whatnot. But now, if we got the source of it, we can go to the source. Why not? What harm are you doing when you give the source? If I kill somebody, that's why I say, hey, everybody should know who did the killing. I said that on this program this morning. Mm-hmm. Anytime a person, I don't care if I'm a soldier or whatnot, if I kill 15 people in battle, they say, yeah, how many people, when you went on that raid today, when you attacked that hill, now there's a lot of shooting going on. Now we're fixing to give out medals and whatnot, or we're fixing to chastise somebody for not doing their duty. So who did the shooting and who didn't? because we're going to hang some medals on whoever did the shooting. Because there's a lot of dead bodies up there and somebody killed them. All right? So what they do is they put the medals on the person that did the killing. Because that's what they do in armies. They put the medals on the person that did the killing. And it's the same in anything. I mean, when they have a movie, and they're going to judge, they say, well, who was in that movie that everybody's talking about? That, that led people to do this and led people. It's the best movie ever made. So who was in it? So they hand out all kind of awards and whatnot. Now, that shouldn't be the reason that the awards, because I don't believe in that, other than just helping to produce justice. That's the reward. But that's just me personally. But you always name names. You don't get somebody's name mixed up with a quote that somebody else is making. Why? Logically speaking, because it causes one thing you don't ever want, and that's confusion. Why? Because the white supremacists love to say that somebody said something that they didn't say.
And I thank you very much.
You give them that kind of license, and boy, they say, hey, yeah, well, I'm with that. I'm with that. They'll be with that in a minute.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, Solar Bean. Don't be a stranger. Give your work credibility. All righty. Miss Rita, I misspelled referential, but you got the meaning. Thank you. But I could be corrected. Thank you. Let's see here. Let's go to Darnell. Wait a minute. Wow, wait a minute. It went off the screen here. Oh, okay. Well, Swa, we're going to get you right now. Swa. Gotcha. How you doing?
Greetings, Mr. Bobby. Greetings, Mr. Neely Jr. Mr. Neely Jr., my question is, what should black people be doing every day if we want to stop being treated like worthless creatures?
Follow the code. That's why I wrote the code book. Just pick out whatever problem you're having, because every day you have some type of problem. I'm assuming that, if you're black. So you just look in the code book and see what the code book says about what you do about that problem. That's why I wrote the book. It's supposed to be helping to solve a problem. The problem, according to the book, is connected with racism that causes the problem. So it helps any person who is a victim of racism to solve whatever problem they might be having, whatever day it happens to be, and the nature of the problem. The book is segmented in the 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics. Politics means any interaction you have with people, whether they're white or non-white. That's what politics is. If it involves people, that's politics. If you're asked, are you in politics? The answer is yes. Why? Because I talk to people. I'm involved with people. I buy things from people. I travel in the presence of people. I'm a people person. I'm in connection with people. Any connection you have with a person makes you a politician. According to what? Logic. That's what politics is, just interaction with people. Any kind of interaction. Every person who has an interaction with just one person is a politician. If you ask, are you a politician? The answer is yes. See, it's knowing how to answer questions and know how to ask questions and what questions to ask. That's in the code book. That's why I say, go to the code book. That's why it's written. And go to this program that you're on now and try to get answers to questions. All problems are solved according to logic. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers.
Exactly.
That's how you do it, sir. Questions and answers every day.
All righty. All right. Thank you, Swell. I know you're on the chat, but thank you anyway. And we'll get with you and hear your comments and hopefully your book club. All right, let's take a break here. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. here on blogtalkradio.com. Get in contact with the show like Mike from Cleveland, Donnell from New York, and Ray from Dallas, Texas. Get in contact with the show by calling this number, 516-453-9921. Be sure to get the call screener your name, and so that I can properly and hopefully give you the proper and correct introduction. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7 at gmail at wait a minute, the numeral 7 Mr. Bobby at gmail.com. You get that straight. There you go. You can do that. Will not be read today, though. Will not be read today. And you can also do this. You can go to the blogtalkradio.com and get into the chat room. Just go to blogtalkradio.com. Click on the shows, and you will come to the Produce Justice Show. Click that bad boy on, and then that chat room will come up. You click that, and you be there. You be there. And I think you'll be very happy that you are there with some very intelligent conversations that go on in there. Be nice. Be nice. Be nice. Mr. Fuller is going to talk about his books coming up in a little bit here. You can get all the material at producejustice.com, and he will describe in detail about the book, the procedure on getting the book, and all that. I hope many of you were able to listen to Mr. Fuller last week on the Carl Nelson Show. You make sure that when we make the announcement when he will be on, that you listen to it. We also have set up where you can listen to it on the Produce Justice website. Those guys in that room that do that, they are fantastic. Also, for new callers, if you call this number, 516-453-9921, we have a special thing to get you in right on top. And speaking about Mr. Fuller's books, I forgot to mention this. When you purchase the books by going to producejustice.com, if you go also to Amazon or Elector, I should say, go to Amazon, make sure that you give Mr. Fuller a mention. There's some information that we get from that, and that'll help us out to know exactly what we need to do as we continually in that venture are still learning. Okay, and all of us are still learning. Yeah. Okay. Let me see here. Mike. Oh no, well, I'm sorry, Mike. Right after this, I had to get this in here, and then we'll go to Mike. Okay. Here you go, Mr. Fuller. This is Mrs. Taylor from Rantoul, Illinois, formerly of Chanute Air Force Base. You stated in your book there are three categories of people: non-white people, white people, and white supremacists. My question is, Mr. Fuller, like the white supremacists, white people benefit immensely from white supremacy. Based on the evidence, I would think that white people are aware of the harmful effects and deplorable mistreatment to non-white people in this evil system. And yet, many of them choose to be complacent. Shouldn't they be categorized as white supremacists? Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Well, I said it earlier on this program. are all white, in answer to this question sometimes has been asked, are all white people racist? And the answer is flat out no. Based on what? Based on logic. White babies are not racist. A newborn white baby is not a racist. You have to be a person who is capable, logically speaking, of knowing one color from another in order to be a racist. You cannot be a racist if you don't know one color from another. Because racism is about color. Color. C-O-L-O-R. Color of the skin. That's what racism is about. If it's not about color, it's not racism. It's something else, tribalism or something else. But it's not racism. Now, a newborn baby, logically speaking, is not able to be a racist, nor is a person who is what a lot of people call senile, there are different names for it, person who is way up in age, who used to be a racist until that person what? Got to the place they couldn't tell one color from another. So that person is no longer a racist if they don't know one color from another. Racism has to start with the mind.
Yes.
If the mind is not racist, the body can't be racist. All right? So are all white people racist? No. Logically speaking. Now, what about the white people who say that they are not racist? They should be suspected of being racist. Because if they can say that they are not racist, it means that they are able to know one color from another.
Mm-hmm.
So the code says you never call a white person a racist unless that white person, the white person that you call a racist, said that he or she is a racist. That's in the code book. Never, ever. You don't put that label on any white person under any circumstance unless that white person says, yeah, I'm a racist. You're looking at the real article here. But if that person doesn't tell you that, I'm not talking about telling somebody else that. If that person doesn't tell you that, you don't say that that person is a racist, ever. But you do say, according to the code, I suspect you could be one, sir. And you can say that to any white person who is able to be one. Now, able means being able to tell one color from another. You have a duty. I would tell any white person right now, and I'm telling white people all over the world right now, if you are able to be a racist, Neely Fuller has a duty to suspect you probably are one. Why? Where's the logic? Because we're in a racist government, a racist system, where white people are required to be racist. All right? Okay. That's a requirement. Just like Neely Fuller is required to be a victim of racism in the system of white supremacy. Now, if there's no system of white supremacy, then that doesn't apply. But the system of white supremacy is the only government on the planet. According to what? According to the evidence. It's the only government on the planet. So therefore, the system of white supremacy has white supremacists and their victims. Okay. And it also has white people who are not white supremacists on account of they are not able to tell one color from another. I hope that's understood.
Hopefully she got the message there, Mr. Fuller. Okay. Mike, Cleveland, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Oh, here's my question for Mr. Fuller. Would it be constructive or even logical for black people to form sundown towns? Not out of hate, but just as an extra layer of protection to help stop people like this recent shooter who killed 10 innocent black people. And the second question would be really quick.
Wait a minute. Let Mr. Fuller answer the first question, Mike.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't recommend that at all. I recommend what I do recommend in the code book. And that is replace the entire system worldwide with the system of justice, which means guaranteeing no one is mistreated. Now, if I try to establish a sundown town, I'm mistreating white people who are looking for a place to stay overnight. White people should be able to stay in any town, anywhere in the world, as far as I'm concerned. And a black person should be able to stay in any town, anywhere in the world, when they get sleepy. A whole lot of Christian people say that they believe in that, and they say Christianity is the strongest religion. Most of the people who are well-versed in religion, they say that that's the case. More Christians on the planet than there are anybody else of any other religion. But I say that's not true. I say there's more white supremacists on the planet than there's anybody else. That if you're talking about the strongest religion, it's the religion of white supremacy. People believe in that more than they believe in anything, regardless of what they say.
All righty. Mike, what's your second question quickly?
Well, my second question quickly was the victims, like in this most recent shooting, why are the victims usually seem to be black? There was Dylan Roof, now this guy, and now probably more coming. I mean, if he had stopped and, say, and shot 10 Mexicans or 10 Asian people, that would have been just as racist. But why does it always seem to be blacks that are being targeted and shot? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
We're in the system of white supremacy. That's what you do. You make any black person that you encounter miserable or dead. Miserable or dead. Or a combination of both. Miserable and dead.
Right.
That's what you do in the system of white supremacy. Everybody's supposed to be on board with that, including black people themselves. Black people are supposed to make each other miserable in the system of white supremacy, which we do a lot of, and which the code book is designed to try to get, hopefully, get that to stop, like the system of white supremacy itself. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's the other question?
That was it. That was the second question. All right. Thank you, Mike. Don't be a stranger either, by the way. Mr. Fuller, let's see, I have a question here from Black Speak. Black Speak says this, Mr. Fuller, there have been frequent references to the phrase, quote, black and brown people when it comes, end of quote, when it comes to mistreatment by racist or white supremacists. Mr. Fuller, could you please ask Mr. Fuller, is constructive for black people to include, quote, brown people, to include brown people as victims of racism, white supremacy, since most brown people don't share the same legacy as black people and came to America of their own free will, not as slaves? Regards, Black Speak.
Answer to that question. Most black people are brown and yellow and tan and beige. It's all black. White is not black or brown or beige or tan or yellow. Now you have white people who will go on a beach somewhere and they will have a temporary tan, but that's artificial. It'll go away. That's not permanent. They're not going to, a white person that goes on a beach will be, they can get what you call a tan. That means they are not white anymore as far as your visual looking at the person is concerned. that white person is not white. You're looking at them. They're not white, but they are white. So it's a political term. Also, so in answer to the question, all people of color. Now, whoever invented that term, that's a functional term. You can say it. I use that term. I didn't invent that term. All people of color who, when they go out in the sun, they go out and they have color in their skin when they go out, and when they're no longer in the sun, they still have color in their skin. Unlike white people who will lose their color if they stay out of the sun. They will lose that color and go and be a white person. Now, when you're talking about paint, there is such a thing as white paint that'll stay white all the time. But that's paint. White people are not painted. They have a lack of what I've heard of what they call pigmentation. I don't even know whether the correct term for describing that or not is a lack of.
Melanin, I think they said?
A lack of melanin, yes. But I don't get in that argument. That's for people that know all about that type of thing. I don't get in that conversation. I just say the political connotation is white, non-white. You're either white or you're not. And you have to be white in order to be a white supremacist. There's no such thing as a black white supremacist. What kind of logic is that?
None. All righty. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Ray, Dallas, you're on with Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, it's completely understood that you don't discuss the ninth area of activity on air. But since all areas of activity are interrelated, how can counter-war be made entertaining for victims? How can they be comfortable with counter-war?
Anything, that gets to two words, constructive results. Anything that a black person does that is constructive, that's counter-war, right there. Anything that you do, any time of day, that when you stand back and look at what you did, you say, now that was constructive. I paved that street. I built that house. And now this child or me or somebody has shelter that they didn't have before because today I completed this house that I've been building. Log cabin or whatever it was. And does it serve a constructive purpose? After you stand back and look at it. This thing that I built, does it serve a constructive purpose? And if the answer is yes, you have made counter-war against the white supremacists. Anything that a black person does that's constructive and not non-constructive is war against the system of white supremacy. Because the white supremacists do not want any black people anywhere on the planet at any time to do anything constructive unless it's to benefit the system of white supremacy. That's all you have to remember. You got the whole code book wrapped up right there. Anytime you're doing something constructive, you're fighting the system of white supremacy. You are undermining them wholesale.
All righty. Hey, Ray from Dallas. Thank you. I'm going to do this, and then we'll get Mr. Fuller's book. Darnell, did we get you? Okay, I think we did good, Darnell. Okay.
Hello?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Quickly, your question for Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. Fuller, according to the code, for the people that are victims of white supremacy that might not really got an understanding of it, what does the term the system of white supremacy mean?
They have to turn to the code book if they want to. If they keep forgetting, it's in there, and it's also in the word guide. It's all through the code book. White supremacy means, and I'll say it again, if you're white, your reason for living, if you're going to be a white supremacist, is to dominate and mistreat people who have color in their skin in all areas of activity 24/7, if you're going to be a white supremacist. Dominate and mistreat people who have color in their skin. That's what qualifies you to be a white supremacist. In all areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Dominate and mistreat all those people who have color in their skin, and you have what they call non-color, which is white, and that's, you adopt that philosophy, white supremacy. Dominate and mistreat in order to get what? The three things that everybody wants: fun, glory, and material comfort. Whomever thought up the idea of white supremacy thought up a very simple and very powerful, the most powerful idea for getting those three things. But it's an evil idea. Dominating and mistreating people is an evil idea. Mm-hmm. But you can get fun, glory, and material comfort out of it if you are efficient at it. And the most efficient people on the planet, the most learned people on the planet at dominating and mistreating people are the white supremacists.
Yes. Okay.
And they get those three benefits. Very important benefits.
Very important. Okay, Donnell, and you already know, and everybody else, you can get the books by going to producejustice.com, and that will explain everything. Everything.
Sure. Over and over again.
Yes. Quite you. You might be the last one. Go, bro.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Based on the evidence, in regards to the Buffalo shooting and many, many other similar acts of white supremacy terrorism, my question is, what will motivate black people to get serious about solving this problem and producing a system of justice?
To make replacing the system of white supremacy with justice the reason for living. Make that the assignment. That's what I'm trying to get people to do. That's the assignment. That's the reason for being here on the planet. And what do I base it on? Logic. Why? Because it's the most evil system of government on the planet. And there's no government more powerful than the system of white supremacy. So replacing it with something else, what would be that something else? With justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in every situation. On a job, you just to apply it to. See, everything's got to be applied, and I'm just giving this as a worn-out illustration that I give mostly. Say on a job, everybody should start off on that job saying, "Now, there's one thing we want to get straight, and we'll get it straight by doing what? Asking a question, 2 questions, and that'll do it." To start off the morning, is there anybody on this job who's being mistreated? Anybody who's in here, we're all in here together, we're fixing to start to work. Is there anybody who is being mistreated? If so, hold up your hand. And the next question is there anybody who needs help that we can help them with on this job, and they're not getting that help? Hold up your hand. And the person that needs help the most, that's who we're going to start with. And we're going to see to it that whomever's being mistreated, we're going to investigate and find out what the mistreatment is and eliminate that mistreatment. Don't necessarily eliminate the person, fire the person. We're not trying to get people fired, whether they're white or non-white. That's another thing. White people shouldn't be trying to get black people fired. Black people shouldn't be trying to get white people fired. Even when they make mistakes, they can get them fired. But a mistake is a mistake. So we try to help you so that you don't make that mistake again. That's all. And that's an illustration of how the whole world should be 24/7. Is there anybody being mistreated? Let's get that straight right now, because nobody is supposed to be mistreated. Don't care what the circumstances are. We can get to this right quick, right now, before we start the morning. Because if anybody's being mistreated, it's going to mess up a whole bunch of stuff all day long. Because that mistreated person may make problems for somebody else, who in turn is going to make problems for somebody else, and mistreatment has a way of spreading. So we're going to see to it, ain't nobody going to be mistreated here. Not in this place. Not for 1 minute. No mistreatment of any kind. No day that you pick out. And the person that needs help the most is going to get the most help, the most constructive help. And then we're going to start with that person that needs help the most. And if a second person that needs help, that's the second person that needs help. But we're going to start with the person that needs the most help. That's how that's got to work. Can't help everybody at once. Just like when you go to a fire, the person who is staggering around outside, say there's been a car wreck, and there were two people in the car, and one of the people is kind of staggering around. When you arrive to rescue people, they see one person, it was just two people, one person is outside of the car and just kind of staggering around, dazed. But they're not bleeding, no bones broken, anything like that. They're just kind of in a daze from the wreck. The other person is in the car, and the car is on fire. What person do you go to first? You go to both people. Both of them need help. But you go to the person that needs help the most. Philosophy should spread all over the world as of this moment while I'm talking. Go to the person that needs help the most. Get that person out of that burning car. Getting burned alive ain't no joke. It ain't no fun connected with that at all, particularly for the person who can't get out of the car and the flames are now got your foot and spreading to the rest of your body. Your clothes on fire. You want help, and you want a whole bunch of it right now. Now, the other person walking around in a daze, holding their head, because they're shook up, you get to that person second. That person needs help too. But that's the second person. Now, if that philosophy is carried all over the world as of this moment, everything falls into place. Just the philosophy I'm giving about the car wreck and the one that I just gave, the illustration, about the job. Actually, it would be a wonderful thing if every job started that way every morning. The supervisor said, okay, we're all here now. Now, Is anybody being mistreated? Was anybody mistreated yesterday or the day before or any time this week? All right. Because we're going to see that mistreatment stops. And is anybody here that needs help and they're not getting it? Either off the job or on the job, because whatever you're doing off the job that you got a problem with might affect you on the job. So it's all connected. So without being too personal and giving away too much of your personal information, you can just let us know that you might be having problems getting to work on a transportation. And we might can figure out right here at this facility how to do something about it. Oh, you catching the train number 7. Why not try train number 4? I didn't know about train number 4. Yeah, on that route that you're talking about, yeah, you can save at least 45 minutes or an hour and a half or whatever it takes. Oh, yeah, you'd be here before anybody else if you take number 4. See, I've been taking number 7. That's all I knew. And I've heard of incidents like that where a person was about to lose their job because they're always late. And it was because of they didn't have enough information about how to get to work. But somebody knew about the information. Yes, that's why I'm never late. I'm always here an hour before time. All right? Because I take number 4. I come the same way that you do, from the same distance. So I take number 4. That's the train that I take or the bus or whatever it is. So I hope that people get, that's the flavor of an entire code. The way, that's the laser, that's the whole ballpark that black people should be in. That's what code is all about. That's the reason for having a code, that we think of ideas like that about problem solving. Go to producejustice.com, and a good start will be to get the textbook. And if you see some other books on the library shelves, they're there. I heard about a book called How to Be an Anti-Racist. I haven't read it, but you can read it. Or a book on how to get to work on time. If you see it.
All right.
Things to get into.
All right, Nicole, we own the city. Baltimore, you're in. Go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Fuller, thank you for this topic. I'm glad that I tuned in today because you kind of answered a lot of the questions. I'm kind of dealing with an issue of knowing that I'm a victim of racism war. However, dealing with family members that may be dealing with their own sickness. I just want to know, how do we as individuals that know, that are conscious aware, how do we decrease our anxiety or our sanity to make sure that we stay grounded and not allow people that's not conscious to bother us and for us to continue on our fight? That was it.
Questions and answers. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. Procedure should never be, don't ask and answer questions in an argumentative manner. You avoid that by staying in the question and answer lane. And don't argue about the answers that you get. Just be ready with the next question. That's very, very important. And don't break in. Don't try to help the person with the answer. When you ask a person a question, you want that person's answer, not your answer, the one you have in mind, what the answer should be. You want that person to give their views. You want their answer, not yours. And then if you want a follow-up on it, you ask another question. Because through that procedure, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, all problems will be solved.
Okay. Nicole, thank you for that. I guess we went a little bit over, but I had permission that we could go over. So thank you, Nicole, for your call. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Don't forget to get all the books and materials from ProduceJustice.com. That is ProduceJustice.com. Mr. Fuller, the final word for you.
Well, that's it, because we're running over time. So thank you, and I hope I answered the questions in a way that they stick. And get rid of that thing about America having something to do with racism. There's no connection, none.
Right, because Americans was Indians.
No,
Alrighty.
there are no Americans. They don't exist. We'll talk about that next time.
We'll talk about it next time. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week.